Hey everyone, Karim Mustafa here, co-founder at Chopcast. I give this presentation to a lot of marketing teams, and I thought I'd get on video just to record that so that hopefully it could benefit your team as well. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'd basically love to walk you through some of the recent things that we've been learning about how B2B humans actually consume content. And just to be clear, B2B humans pretty much refers to anyone we're trying to target, whether those are decision makers or individual contributors. And we studied our own data here, but also cross-referenced that with secondary sources as needed. So to state the elephant in the room, there's a massive disconnect between sort of like the long form content that B2B brands continue to create on these platforms and the short form content their audiences actually consume. Now, this may not come as a surprise to you, but beyond reasonable doubt, video, and specifically short form video, is the format that audiences prefer to consume the most and is the one that actually delivers the highest ROI. But there are a couple of blockers to actually creating short form video consistently and to a great quality. First of all, there's a flawed methodology. We typically either create videos from scratch or we repurpose long videos. So let's take a look at the first approach. If we create short form videos from scratch, it's usually slow to find ideas, and as soon as we publish something, we're pretty much back to zero again to come up with the next idea and the next idea. And there's always a lot of competing priorities, and besides, you can only create so many explainer videos. With the second approach, if we repurpose long videos, sounds great on the surface, but let's be honest, it takes ages to find those best moments. And honestly, the results aren't great and pretty inconsistent. A lot of us also tend to treat repurposing as like a one-time switch as opposed to a dial that can be tweaked over time. And in reality, repurposing is not just a one and done, but rather there are levels to it, which we will soon see. The second blocker is that we don't fully understand how engagement works. For starters, according to Facebook, we only have a 2-second window to capture someone's interest on social. The good news is that that goes up to 2.5 seconds if it's on desktop. But it's no wonder that even if we try to shorten the video, it just doesn't work. The window to capture attention just keeps getting smaller and smaller. And maybe you've seen this yourself before if you've tried to publish a quote-unquote short video, but for some reason realize it's not getting engagement the way you expected. That's the second blocker. The third blocker is there's this really annoying rule that comes from LinkedIn, which unfortunately is true, called the 95-5 rule. It basically says that only 5% of our addressable market is ever ready to buy right now, which basically means almost 100% of our audience are in the demand generation stage, which is to say that they're either problem unaware or problem aware at best. And while most of our audience sit on one side pretty much waving to us to serve them, most of us have it backwards. We create content for the most expensive, most competitive, and almost like premature segment of the market. And it's understandable that we want our content to convert, but many teams miss the mark by over-indexing on the most expensive part of the journey. So when short form video doesn't work, we inevitably go back to the old playbook, creating more blogs, running more ads, creating more long videos, forgetting that it takes around 10 months to see a 10% lift on blogs. Doesn't mean we shouldn't create blogs. It just means we should think about how we're going to acquire customers while we wait for content to rank. And for ads, cost per lead continues to rise while conversion rate is down. It doesn't mean we shouldn't create ads, but we should think about how we can avoid over-relying on this sort of like pay-to-play model. And webinars and long-form videos alone won't save us either. The drop-off rate is at least 74%, if not much higher. And worst of all, smaller marketing teams with budget constraints and resource constraints are actually paying the highest price for their grind because they have to wear so many different hats consistently, and it doesn't seem like this is getting any easier. So naturally, it can be frustrating to figure out what can be done at this stage moving forward. You know, we ask, what should we do? So one thing that we've been learning, and we've been applying this with our clients, is helping them make this sort of like mindset shift from obsessing purely on content creation and the grind of content creation to focusing more on content consumption and being content consumption scientists. So here's what we know to be true from a consumption standpoint so far. Number one, we need to put the focus back on demand gen because that's where 95% or more of our audience is. Number two, short form videos at scale because that's the most effective format. Number three, we need to make sure that our content actually gets seen through great distribution. And finally, we need to be able to tell a clear revenue story between high engagement and likes and comments and actual pipeline for the sales team. So to that extent, we've created our 4 R's framework, which we implement for clients: record, repurpose, release, and revenue. First is record. We work with clients to make sure that they have an up and running video series, whether they're using their existing recordings or using our 30-minute bi-weekly slots to get their experts on camera, where we interview them and turn every answer or segment into an episode of its own. This provides a sustainable way to create thought-leading evergreen content, which enhances the quality of the leads, as we'll soon see. And by the way, we have a free course on that you can totally check out in case you wanted to implement that on your own by yourself. The next step is we take all this thought-leading long-form content and we repurpose it into short-form videos that are designed to basically drive as as much engagement as possible and break that pattern within the first 2 seconds of the video. This matches the source content that they've created with the format that their audiences actually want to consume the most. We also have a free course on that in case you wanted to implement this on your own. Hope you enjoy that. And then the third component is, rather than having a ton of short form assets just sitting there never seeing the light of day, we basically schedule that content for our clients across all of their key platforms. This basically helps them eliminate scheduling bottlenecks and ensures that their best content is seen by the right people every day. But then the challenge becomes, how do you actually tell a clear revenue story, as we were saying, between getting tons of engagement and actually driving opportunities for the sales team? So the way that we tackle that for our clients is twofold. First, on their website, we build a Netflix-style library of the binge-worthy clips that they're going to be creating anyway that acts as an ever-growing lead magnet. And on social, we convert LinkedIn post reactions into actionable insights for sales, including professional email and company details. So rather than just leaving reactions from prospects as reactions from prospects, this allows your team to proactively nurture them as opposed to waiting until they come to your website and fill out a typical form. And the way we like to visualize the entire playbook working together is, on the left side here, you can see it starts with one recording, which gets turned into short form videos, but also these other formats. It gets published on the social channels you see here in blue. And then in addition to that, it also lives on your website in the form of a Netflix style library. And this is where it gets interesting, because you can actually create, let's say, 4 different segments or clusters for those clips around specific personas or stages of your buyer's journey, and actually create nurture paths for every cluster depending on which clips your prospect has engaged. And then internally you can decide when is the perfect time for marketing to hand that over to sales to close. So we've just talked about a couple of learnings that we've had on B2B content consumption and where we believe that's heading, as well as our methodology for solving that. So if you have any questions, please do reach out, and I hope this was helpful. Cheers.